for your time. We really appreciate it. A busy day for you, I understand. I understand as well that you are going to be applying for emergency use authorization for your vaccine. Do you have a timeline as to how long it will likely take to get through that process?
So we know that we will submit, or we plan to submit our documents on latest on Friday to the FDA. We are already in submission. We have a rolling submission to the European regulators, EMA. So this is an ongoing process.
Doctor, congratulations. This is obviously great news for everybody. We want as many vaccines as humanly possible. How do we know if the vaccine prevents asymptomatic transmission? Do we have that information yet?
So we don't have the information yet. We have the information how well the vaccine prevents disease, but we have indicators that the vaccine should be able to prevent also infection. Since one of the components of the immune system that we are activating the vaccine is the antibodies, the neutralizing antibodies. We know that our vaccine induces strong neutralizing antibody responses, and this is well known in preclinical models that this could prevent infection. We are going to collect indirect data showing how well the prevention of infection works, but this will require a few months.
Are you going to get a T-cell response? Is there going to be a long-term effect here? Because the antibody response obviously fades, but will there be a T-cell response? Will the body have long-term memory of how to deal with this virus?
Yes, we have created evidence for that. So we have analyzed the T cells from subjects, from volunteers who have been vaccinated before and after vaccination. And what we observed is that after about already 4 weeks, the vaccinated people have really strong T-cell responses. And we see two types of T-cell responses: helper T-cells, CD4 T-cells, as well as this cytotoxic CD8 T-cells, which can eliminate virus-positive cells. And this is an extremely important finding. And the finding shows us that the T-cell response that we are observing is even higher than the T-cell response that is observed after disease. Okay? And we know from other virus infections that the T-cells can last for many years. So we have now one component of the immune system which has a better stability than the antibody responses.
Can you give me some perspective, Doctor, if you've had talks with other companies or other studies? Because getting a comparative study between all the vaccines that we're going to need, particularly what portion of the population they might be best for, is quite important. Can you help me understand where you are in that process?
So our clinical trial is, of course, evaluated just our vaccine, but we have our protocol is very close to the clinical trial protocols that were used, for example, in the Operation Warp Speed. So there will be an indirect way to compare the data of this clinical trials performed by different companies, and this could give you also a good understanding of the safety profile of each individual vaccine. And we have already published our T-cell and antibody response data. So there is a lot of information already available, which makes it transparent how the vaccines could compare to each other.
Professor, talking of comparisons, we talked to Moderna's CEO the other day, and we were talking about temperature and stability of the vaccines that you have both produced, both messenger RNA vaccines. How quickly do you think you'll be able to reformulate your drug, your vaccine, so that it is stable at a higher temperature?
So this is ongoing work, and the data that we are generating, so the business that is done is formulation work. And the formulation work does not only include changes to the formulation, but really also evaluation, how stable the formulation is at -20, at 2 to 8 degrees. And we are generating data. We are confident that with slight modifications of the existing formulation, not dramatic, but slight modifications, we could increase the 2 to 8 degree storage time, and we could maybe also enable shipping at -20. But what is even more important is that we, in the current pandemic situation, supply chain, cold supply chain is not a problem, since we have this fantastic infrastructure developed by our colleagues from Pfizer, who ensure that the vaccine could be supplied in boxes, cooling boxes with dry ice. We expect that we until mid of next year could come up with a new formulation which could allow us really to have a formulation which is pretty comparable not only to the messenger RNA vaccines that are currently discussed, but to any other type of vaccine which is on the market.
I think the problem is that it's easier for developed nations, but not developing nations. So looking forward to that being adjusted. Speaking of other countries, do you have an idea of, say, approval time, say in Europe, for example, or other countries where you need approval for the vaccine?
Yeah, the only thing that I can share at the moment is that we are in close discussion and submitted our documents already to the European Medicinal Agency, and there are almost daily phone calls and document exchange. How long it will take, I can't say, because this is, of course, an interactive dialogue which requires addressing of questions and demands. We will see. I'm confident that based on the positive data that we have generated today, all authorities, the FDA, the EMA, and other regulatory authorities will really push to get this done as quickly as possible.
Professor, why is the formulation different in China compared with Europe and the United States? Why are you using a different vaccine in these different regions?
No, this is actually not the case. As you might remember, that we started with 4 vaccine candidates, and all 4 vaccine candidates have been evaluated in Germany. In the United States, we just tested 2 vaccine candidates, and in China, we have also tested 2 vaccine candidates. But the candidate which is in which was now evaluated in phase 3 is now just starting the Chinese trial now. So that means we will have just 1 vaccine candidate worldwide, which is BNT162b2. Yeah, and based on the data that we have generated, the safety data, the efficacy data, and some supporting data in China, some supporting data in Japan and other countries, we could ensure the requirements of the regulatory authorities in these regions.
Just to wrap this conversation up, how quickly can you scale? Especially there's 2 doses. You can scale quickly, but it's still not going to be enough. When can we expect more mass adoption?
Yeah, so our goal is to supply up to 50 million doses 2020. Which could go to states in Europe and in the United States. For 2021, our goal is to produce at least 1.3 billion doses, and we have started scaling up of manufacturing in the last weeks. We have already produced many millions of doses. These doses are not released. The release will only happen if we get an authorization or an approval. And at the moment, we have sites involved in the manufacturing, the Pfizer sites in the United States, the Pfizer site in Belgium, our site in Mainz, and in the first quarter of 2021, we will also activate a second site in Germany, in Marburg. And with this, we will have a capacity of more than 120 million doses per month. Yeah, and might be we could even be able even to further increase that.